My name is Bob Baer. I used to be a CIA agent stationed in Lebanon during the Civil War. It was chaos. But the real threat was always car bombs. And now we know you can kill a president, defeat a superpower, or just blow up your own government with a car bomb. All you need is roads, traffic. Every airport, any government building, or a street is a target. This is the film of how the century of the car turned into the century of the car bomb. How a dream of freedom turned nightmare. Forget about nuclear weapons. The decisive weapon of our time is the car bomb. From the world's first car bombing on Wall Street in 1920, car bombs have been weapons of terror.
A wagon, horse-drawn wagon, exploded into the lunchtime crowd. The dynamite, packed with these metal window slugs, killed about 40 people in the street. It was a man named Mario Buda, who was an Italian anarchist. This was the first time that you'd had the wagon left there and just timed to go off in the middle of a big urban crowd.
In the Middle East, the car bomb became a weapon of war in the desperate struggle over the creation of the State of Israel in 1948.
We carried out the war against those who were guilty.
They came as refugees to take his land. So I believe he had the right to blow up this street.
But for some people, car bombing was just another business technique. Given that their business was organizing the world heroin trade.
My uncle's murder was the first mafia car bomb, their first act of terrorism. We found that the car was practically in little pieces. The bodies did not exist anymore because the blast had torn them to pieces, scattering them all over the garden.
But it took an angry 22-year-old American Vietnam War protester, Carl Armstrong, to stumble upon the ultimate do-it-yourself terrorism recipe.
Well, basically the formula for ammonium nitrate was in the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Under what?
Explosives.
Under explosives, really? A formula that would turn the car bomb into the deadliest terrorist weapon of the 20th century. Can you remember the sound of the explosion?
Yeah, I can remember it. The sound of glass all the way down University falling into the street. We could see this mushroom cloud 1,500 feet in the ground. It just glowed red.
Armstrong did not stop the Vietnam War, but his recipe for homemade explosives slipped across the Atlantic into the hands of the IRA. The world's first full-scale car bomb war was now ready to begin. And the material to make the bombs was lying around in every farmer's barn in Ireland. Every Easter Sunday, Irish Republicans march in Belfast to remember IRA men killed in Ireland's Troubles. The Troubles lasted for 3 decades and claimed nearly 4,000 lives. The IRA wanted to get the British out. Car bombs were the IRA's heavy weaponry, their artillery. When the Troubles broke out in 1969, the IRA grabbed whatever was at hand to fight British troops. Petrol bombs, old shotguns, and dangerous homemade explosives. Sean O'Callaghan was a senior IRA bomb maker at the time.
My understanding is that the IRA was running out of explosives, and then Yeah, the IRA had great difficulty in getting hold of military or commercial explosives. You get small amounts of it. You could steal it from quarries. You could buy some on the market. The point about the ammonium nitrate was that net nitrate was probably the biggest commercial fertiliser in the Irish Republic. The government had a share in the company that manufactured it. So every farmer had hundreds of bags of net nitrate, which was really the base for all of the homemade fertiliser bombs. So it was an absolute godsend. So you emptied 4 bags into a large barrel, and then you filled the barrel with water, and then you put a big gas burner under it and you boiled it. And up to the top rose this very clear liquid. And in the morning, that would have crystallised into big lumps of white crystal. And that was virtually pure ammonium nitrate. And later on, that would be mixed with diesel oil. So you needed large amounts of it.
You were making
2 ton a week.
2 ton a week
of ammonium nitrate.
How many car bombs was that?
I would say the average size of the car bomb was probably about 500 pound.
So basically nothing to stop you.
And as I knew farmhouses that had hundreds of tons of net nitrate had been lying there for years.
The British took countermeasures to make it more difficult for the IRA to make ANFO. Simply boiling up fertilizer to make explosives no longer works. But the IRA also found ways around those restrictions and ramped up their car bomb war.
This is a grave of volunteers in Belfast who died during the present struggle. This is where Michael Clark and Ann Parker are buried. They were killed with their own bomb. I knew both of them very well.
You know him?
Tommy Gorman was one of the IRA's top bomb makers in Belfast in the 1970s.
Where did the car bomb come from?
Well, I think it was a natural progression. It was so simple and so logical. If it's in a car, you can't see it. You're just parking a car like everyone else. And I think that was just the beauty of it.
Tommy's job was to assemble the bombs, set the timer, before handing over the device to the bomb team, who drove the car to its target in the city center.
To deliver the car bomb, who was the best sort of driver?
There was people who naturally got picked because they had the steady nerve. If you got someone who was nervous, they'd maybe start to panic if they got held up in traffic.
What about women?
Women as well, yeah, just as good as men. Some of them are better than men.
One of those women was Marion Price.
I was born in Belfast. My mother and father were both very active Republicans. I joined the IRA when I was 17.
17?
Yeah.
You were at school?
Yeah.
Did you find that a bit
Yeah.
paradoxical, going to school and going...
Yeah, and coming home, taking off your uniform and going...
Was there ever an occasion when you were involved in a car bomb operation?
I mean, I didn't drive at the time. I was too young. I didn't have a license. But I've been in a car that was laden with explosives that were being brought into Belfast. And we were stopped by the British Army. And at that time, we had the explosives in the door panels of the car. So the soldier went to open the door for me, and I said to him, no, it's all right, I can manage. And when I got out of the car, because I was wearing a Mini, I think he was more interested in looking at my legs than he was with the car.
So, I mean, a teenage girl is just ideal for delivering a car bomb.
Yeah.
Did you ever plant a car bomb?
I did, yeah. Quite a few of them, you know.
Did it kill anybody?
No, there was nobody killed or injured in any of the car bombs. None of the ones I was involved in. Anyway.
What would you have thought if you'd killed somebody?
If there'd been a soldier or a policeman at the time, I'd probably been pretty happy.
A civilian?
I'd been pretty pissed off.
Most of the time, the IRA called in warnings. The IRA's aim was economic terrorism, buildings, not bodies. Under their own rules, killing civilians was wrong. But planting car bombs is not an exact science. And when the IRA messed up, lots of people died.
What was the idea behind Bloody Friday?
Every now and again, the leadership of the Republican movement would decide to have a spectacular.
On the afternoon of the 21st of July, 1972, the IRA planted 22 car bombs in the center of Belfast. All timed to go off within minutes of each other.
Did you have any role on Bloody Friday?
Yeah, I was responsible for making 4 devices. It was 3 roads and a bridge.
Bloody Friday was the world's first mass car bomb attack. The IRA phoned in warnings, but one bomb prematurely exploded in Oxford Street bus station, killing 6 passengers. Many others were horribly mutilated. Mina Wardle was just yards away.
I was actually just on the courthouse steps coming out when the bomb went off, and for some reason or other, just stuck to the wall at the side of the courthouse and could not move. I seen torso lying in the middle of the road. I actually thought it was something that fell off a meat lorry. There were signs going off. There was pandemonium everywhere.
Belfast City fell into chaos. There was nowhere safe to run.
We were being directed in all sorts. They didn't seem to know what was going on, either where the bombs were, exactly what was happening.
Are you ashamed of what happened on Bloody Friday?
Utterly, very, very ashamed. It was a terrible, terrible day. There was no way that the security forces could have cleared because the spread of bombs were everywhere.
But the slaughter on Bloody Friday did not stop the IRA. The bombing campaign accelerated. In 1972, there were 1,382 explosions. The IRA leadership was now ready to bring the car bomb onto the streets of London.
We would bomb London. It was our job to go and pick the targets and plan the operation.
On March the 8th, 1973, the IRA attacked London for the first time and planted 4 car bombs. 19-year-old Marion Price was leader of the bomb team.
We went to London, we picked various targets. We reported back to the leadership in Belfast. Then the bombs were made up here in Ireland, and we took the bombs to England on the ferries. Then on the morning that the bombs went off, the driver and the person who was to set the timer, they got up at 6 in the morning. They drove the bombs to their targets, and it was planned that by the time the bombs would go off that afternoon at 3 o'clock, we would all be home in Ireland.
Marion chose 4 spectacular targets, including the Old Bailey Courthouse. But the most prestigious target was New Scotland Yard. Peter Gurney, a bomb disposal officer, was on duty that day.
What's the significance of this target?
It has a great cachet because everyone throughout the world knows of Scotland Yard. To attack it successfully would have been a great feather in the IRA's cap.
What happened on March 8th, 1973 here?
And they found a Ford car parked here, and the number plates on that car did not relate to that particular vehicle. The boot lock had been tampered with, so we decided that what we would do, we would go into the boot through the rear seat. We went in, and you could see that it was packed with explosive.
Gurney was alerted in time to try to defuse the New Scotland Yard bomb. But there was no such luck outside the Old Bailey.
Well, it was 180 pounds of explosive. The problem was that, in fact, we'd found the explosive, but not the initiator. We had no idea how long there was on the clock. What we just decided to do was to take the explosive away from the bomb. And in fact, we were pulling bags, 5-pound bags of explosive out, and put them on the other side of the road, so if the bomb went off, there would be less explosive. The building hadn't been evacuated, and there were faces pressed against all the windows watching us work. After a while, we came across a detonating cord leads, and they ran to underneath the front passenger seat. Inside was the clock, a battery, and the detonator. I cut the det cord leads.
What was the significance of this bomb?
These were the first car bombs used in England.
2 bombs did explode. The Irish War was now on the streets of London.
Were you glad that 2 of the bombs went off?
Absolutely, yes. Because at least that achieved, that was something. We were successful with 2 of them.
For Marion Price, it was the end of her days as a car bomber.
When the police came up to you, what did they say?
Are you flying to Dublin? That was famous last words
what did you say?
of Detective Inspector Nigel Summers. We said yes, and then he also turned around and he says, well, would you mind coming with me?
How'd you feel when you saw the police coming?
I just thought, right, that's it. We're scooped,
Marion spent the next decade in prison. But over the next 25 years, the IRA would explode thousands of car bombs. Their ANFO bombs would get bigger and bigger. Just one bomb could destroy a small town or blast the heart of a key financial center, like the City of London. Bomb disposal officer Mike Coldrick was called out to defuse the biggest IRA bomb of all.
Around about 10:27 on the Saturday morning, tremendous blast from the truck out there in Bishopsgate, about 3,500 kilograms, high explosive, sent a blast wave that ripped all the windows out of the whole area. Where we're standing now, you would have had an absolute shower of death, literally hundreds of tons of glass raining down in a few seconds. And of course the blast went through all these offices, devastating them, putting them beyond use for a considerable period of time.
It's a massive bomb. Ring the police. Massive. I repeat, massive. You have the message.
When the bomb explodes, tell me what happens.
Well, the first thing you see is what they call in bomb disposal circles the big white light. That is an intense ball of high temperature gas. Shockwave comes away from the vehicle in a spherical pattern at supersonic velocity. That would take out all the windows in the area. The vehicle itself would have been fragmented, and those metal fragments turned into high-velocity bullets and would be lethal.
The IRA deliberately planted the Bishopsgate bomb on a Saturday morning, knowing that most of those city offices would be empty. It was economic terrorism.
The total bill to the insurance for Bishopsgate was around about £1 billion. Imagine 20 times that amount of devastation in city centres around the United Kingdom. It would have brought us to our knees.
How much did the bomb cost?
Well, I don't know how much a ton of ammonium nitrate fertiliser is, but let's say it's £100. So there you've got about £300 for the explosive, £5 to £10 for the timing devices, and then you've got the vehicle itself.
Which was stolen.
It was stolen.
So we're talking maybe £400.
£400 or £500.
To counter the IRA, the British built the world's first electronic fortress around the City of London. This screening was supposed to deter the IRA. But unless you hand search every car, you can't stop car bombs. And the IRA always had the option of bombing another city. Manchester, in the north of England. The IRA never won their war in Ireland, but the British lost theirs on the streets of the City of London. Did you think this was going to change the politics of Northern Ireland when this bomb went off?
Oh, no doubt about it. And I saw the devastation and realised how large those bombs were. I said, in 18 months, we'll be talking peace.
Ireland's troubles had dragged on for 24 years, a futile stalemate. But after Bishopsgate, the British government was suddenly a lot more receptive to a peace deal. And how soon did it come?
Well, it took about another 2 years.
You tell me it cost £500 to change the policy of a major power.
Amazing, isn't it? It's a real bang for bucks, if you like.
Just 1 year after Bishopsgate, the IRA called a ceasefire, and serious negotiations to end the troubles began. In the right place and with the right amount of explosives, car bombs really can change history. At the height of the troubles, the IRA churned out car bombs, as if on a production line. But you don't need a secret army to launch a car bomb attack. Even the smallest terrorist cell can make a one-off fertilizer bomb. If you wanted to, you could plan to blow up the United States from your own front sitting room. In 1993, the same year as Bishopsgate, car bombers would return to America and strike again at New York's financial district. The target was the World Trade Center. On Friday, February 19th, a massive explosion ripped through the underground parking garage of the North Tower. Williams was the chief FBI investigator.
Where we walked into the Trade Center, it was kind of like walking into a cave. Odd sounds. You could hear people hollering, screaming in the background, and rescue workers. Basically, you had a crater that was 5 stories deep.
The 1993 World Trade Center bombing was the first major terrorist attack on American soil since the 1920s on Wall Street.
Of course, when you enter a crime scene like that, there's certain things that you're first trying to determine. How did it happen? What was it? How did it get there? What kind of explosive? And come up with a swag as a scientific wild-ass guess.
Forensic scientists like Williams can determine what explosives are used in bombs by the pattern of the damage. Fertilizer bombs are less powerful than military explosives.
By looking at that kind of damage, by the way the concrete was broken into larger pieces rather than pulverized into fine dust, I estimated that it was an explosive that had a velocity of detonation of approximately 15,000 feet per second. We're looking at fertilizer-based explosives. I guessed 3/4 of a ton of explosives. How's it going to get there? It was probably brought in there in a van. Who makes 1-ton vans? Ford, General Motors, and Dodge. Both GM and Dodge couldn't make that clearance. So within that first 45 minutes, I'm able to decide that it was a Ford 1-ton utility van.
Williams' swag would prove stunningly accurate. But of course, the investigators still had to find the remnants of the actual bomb vehicle amidst the mass of dangerous debris. The FBI was in charge, but local police forces, like the New York City Bomb Squad, were part of the team. Don Sadawi was sent into the bomb crater on Sunday afternoon, 48 hours after the blast, to help a forensic chemist team take samples.
I took the team to an area that nobody had disturbed, and it was on the far end of the crater. You just didn't walk down a ramp and say, oh, let's walk over here, or let's take the stairs down. They were gone. They were completely blown out, and what wasn't blown out was filled with huge pieces of debris. Dave Williams gave specific orders not to touch or move any items that we found down there.
But then Sadawi spotted a strange metal fragment, crumpled and twisted by the power of the explosion.
What was unusual was the damage. It was so ripped and twisted. I've been to scenes in organized crime where people were killed with car bombs and completely blew a car up, but I've never seen the undercarriage blown out into pieces as I was looking at there. So I knew that this had to be either right next to or possibly the vehicle that would bring such a large vehicle bomb in here. And I took my glove off, and as I ran my thumb inside, I could feel it like an encryption. It was a star shape, letters, numbers, and then it ended in a star shape. And I knew that this was a confidential VIN number.
Confidential vehicle identification numbers are inscribed on different parts of a car by the manufacturer to help police identify stolen vehicles.
At that point, I made a decision, and I said to the team, we have to take these pieces out of here. I know it's against orders.
And I see Don and Joe carrying a stretcher out. I'm thinking, uh-oh. As I get closer, I see that they had a piece of metal on this stretcher. I started to raise hell because they were moving evidence before we were up and running with an evidence control center.
He was yelling at me quite a bit, and it just got to the point where I couldn't say anything.
What was he saying?
He was just very angry. You know, you violated orders, and if you're going to act like a cowboy, you know, you'll be removed from this investigation. And he was very upset, very upset.
But soon forensic teams confirmed Sadawi's hunch. It was now just 50 hours from the time of the explosion, and the hunt for the bomb van and the bombers was rolling.
And that led to a break in the case.
That was obviously a great break in the case because we were able to trace the number back as a Ford Econoline van owned by Ryder Rental Agency and traced that particular van to Jersey City, where it was last rented to an individual by the name of Mohammed Salome.
Salome was part of a small cell of Islamist terrorists, incensed by America's support for Israel. The attack on the World Trade Center was their declaration of war. Incredibly, Salome had used his real name when renting the truck. And then, in a clumsy attempt to retrieve his cash deposit, had reported the truck stolen. He needed the money to pay for an air ticket to flee the country. But by quickly tracing the VIN number, the FBI were waiting at the rental agency.
I believe the deposit for the Ryder truck was somewhere in the area of $425. And in the end, when we had FBI agents behind the counter negotiating with him, he ended up leaving with less than half of that deposit, and he was happy with it. Typical federal government, I guess. Don't give you all your money back.
Salome was arrested. The trail led to a storage facility packed with bomb-making equipment. But the real mastermind, the bomb maker, Ramzi Youssef, had fled to Pakistan on the night of the World Trade Center bombing.
Ramzi Youssef was basically the lead explosive instructor in Afghanistan, teaching other folks